Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast Special Edition Series where I talk about every team's offseason and make some predictions and preview everything. And this is the 17th of 32 episodes, so now we're halfway, and this is going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. So we go over free agents to be, team needs, franchise tag candidates, trade candidates, release candidates, and extension candidates, and then draft fit, free agent fit, bold prediction, and a lot more. So the Las Vegas Raiders, free agents to be, they have a lot. Josh Jacobs, Andre James, Greg Van Roten, Jermaine Elmanor, Jacob Johnson, he's a fullback, Austin Hooper, John Jenkins, defensive tackle, Bilal Nichols, another defensive tackle, Amik Robertson, the cornerback, and special teams player DeAndre Carter. This team is littered with needs. Quarterback, wide receiver, running back, offensive tackle, guard, center, defensive tackle, outside linebacker, inside linebacker, cornerback. All right, franchise tag candidate, Josh Jacobs. This was easy. He's the best player on the roster that's slated to become a free agent. I think that they need to keep him because he is awesome when he's on the field and he produces for the Raiders. So if I'm them, you have no choice. He's the obvious franchise tag candidate on this team, and I don't see how he doesn't get franchise tag. Trade candidate, Davante Adams. This was easy. I think it's out there that he wants out of Vegas. I think that there's a lot of teams that want his services, including the New York Football Jets, who have his former quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. And I think that the Jets are going to inquire about Adams over and over and over again. So that's a trade destination that makes sense. I don't think they'll trade him to the Chiefs. That's in the division. Maybe the Buccaneers to replace Evans. I could see it being the Giants. I could see it being the Bears. Could they trade the 9th pick for Davante Adams? I think that's a little too rich. But maybe your first for next year and maybe a second. Like that would work. Davante on Chicago would make a lot of sense. I think the Jaguars make sense for Davante Adams. I think that the Patriots make sense for Davante Adams if they were to go that route. So there's a lot of teams that could use the services of one Davante Adams. The Baltimore Ravens. So that is going to be an interesting trade market to watch. Other trade candidates on this team, Aiden O'Connell if the Raiders draft a quarterback, Jerry Tillery, maybe Jack Jones. But there's a couple I could think of on this team. Release candidate, Jimmy Garoppolo, he's getting cut. He's suspended, obviously. They're going to cut him. That's no question. It's only a matter of when, not if, according to everybody. He would have been my pick to be cut even before those reports came out. So they're going to cut him. That was a bust free agent signing by the Raiders. And now Jimmy G is going to be looking for work elsewhere. Other cut candidates on this team, Colton Miller, I don't see getting cut. Maybe Jacoby Myers, because that was obviously a pickup that Josh McDaniels probably was behind, and Josh McDaniels is now gone. Brian Hoyer's an obvious cut candidate too. So there's a couple. Then maybe Robert Spillane, the linebacker. I don't see it being Jack Jones. Maybe Marcus Epps. I don't see it being anybody on special teams. So, to me, the obvious cut candidate on this team is one Jimmy Garoppolo. extension candidate, Trayvon Moehrig, the safety. He had a good rookie year, and he was good this past year, but he was bad his second year. But I think he is somebody that's in play for an extension. Maybe Malcolm Kunze, maybe Divine Diabolo. But I do think that Moehrig is the easy candidate for an extension on this team. They have to worry about a couple guys next year, but I do think that the easy call for an extension is Trayvon Moehrig, the safety. Draft fit, Joe Alt. I love Joe Alt. He's going to be a day one guy. You can just plug in and play, and he'll just help any team's offensive line. A team in the Raiders who absolutely needs stability on the offensive line. Somebody next to Colton Miller. It would make sense for Alt. I know Alt would fit on some other teams too, including the Titans and the Giants and the Bears. But there's some other guys that would fit. Olamiwa Fashanu out of Penn State would fit. I think that Jerzon Newton would fit on the Raiders, although I think taking him at where they're picking is a reach, or where they're slated to pick. Talise Fuaga, I think, would be a good fit with the Raiders. Amarius Mims, J.C. Lathan. A couple of the corners, Terrion Arnold, Cooley McKinstry, Cooper DeJuan would all fit good because they're going to lose Robertson potentially as a free agent. Some of the quarterbacks would fit good. J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix. You have Quinion Mitchell, Brian Thomas would be a good fit. Trey Franklin, Troy Fatano, Ennis Rackestaw. There's a lot of guys that you can say, like, okay, he would fit well with the Las Vegas Raiders. Free agent fit. Connor Williams, another offensive lineman. Andre James is a free agent. They're probably not going to re-sign him. And Connor Williams is an obvious upgrade over Andre James. And Andre James wasn't bad this past year, don't get me wrong. Andre James is going to find the home. But Connor Williams on the Vegas Raiders makes a ton of sense as a free agent signing. A lot of teams need centers. The Raiders need one if they lose Andre James. And Connor Williams does make a lot of sense with Vegas. And him, say they draft Joe Alt, and they still have Colton Miller, and all of a sudden that's a competent offensive line in Vegas that could keep a quarterback upright. Other good free agent fits on the Raiders. There's a lot of them. Chase Young, Chidobe Awuzie, Michael Winu, Hollywood Brown, Leonard Williams, Tyron Smith, Mike Evans, Danielle Hunter, L'Jarius Sneed, Christian Wilkins if the Dolphins let him walk. Brian Burns makes sense there if Carolina were to let him test the market. I think that Levante David would be a good fit. Jadeveon Clowney just screams Raiders, right? Zadarius Smith, Xavier McKinney, maybe. Patrick Queen if the Ravens let him go. Mekhi Becton, which would be a weird one. Josh Uche of New England. Jordan Brooks of Seattle. Jonah Williams would fit well there. So, yeah, there's a lot of options in there for the Raiders in free agency. And the bold prediction for the team, I'm going to say the team trades up in the NFL draft to the number 4 pick with Arizona, and they take Jaden Daniels. or whatever quarterback that's left. It's probably going to be Jaden Daniels or Drake May. But I'm going to say Daniels because the Raiders love Jaden Daniels. And that's obviously a good draft pick, but I didn't want to give that away. So I think they move up the 4 and take Jaden Daniels. So I could see the Bears trading out of the pick or keeping the pick and taking Caleb. I think there could be a wild card that drops like the Bears or the Patriots even if they pass on a quarterback. So that's kind of like that wild card where Marvin Harrison could go third to New England or Chicago drops a couple spots and takes Harrison for somebody like maybe the Commanders to move up to take Caleb Williams. And then that Marvin Harrison spot opens up the possibility for somebody to move up the 4 to Arizona. And Arizona can get a boatload back for that pick. And I think the Raiders are motivated to do it. So I'm going to say the Raiders move up and take Jaden Daniels. All right, so some potential futures with them. Max Crosby, Defensive Player of the Year, is probably going to be in the 10-1 range. You know that. That's the most obvious one in terms of awards for the Raiders. So the Raiders to win the AFC is 40-1, which is crazy. And then the Super Bowl is 80-1. I'm surprised they're not kind of by like where the Giants and the Commanders are. Like, they must think that they have something up their sleeves or something, because that's absurd. So I think the Raiders' odds are too short and they don't have value. I think that they belong in the triple digits for the Super Bowl and over 50-1 for the conference. I don't get the Raiders hype. They must think there's, like, what are they, signing Kirk Cousins? So I think the Raiders' odds are too high. But Max Crosby for Defensive Player of the Year is one I would look at. If Josh Jacobs is back on the team, Offensive Player of the Year I would look at as well. And, of course, the rushing title as well. Say if they were to move up and take Jaden Daniels or Drake May. One of those guys for Offensive Rookie of the Year would be really enticing. And I think that Jaden Daniels probably would have shorter odds than Drake May. Jaden Daniels would probably be like plus 750, and Drake May would be like, 9-1 or 10-1. I don't think they're going to draft a defensive player in the first round. I think they're going to move up and take Daniels, like I mentioned. And Antonio Pierce for Coach of the Year, I think, has to be like in that 16-1 type of range, because I think that a lot of people respect the job he did to earn himself the regular gig, which he totally earned. So, and they're obviously not a potential Bill Belichick destination as well, because Pierce just earned that job, and so you don't think that we're going to hear them for a Belichick possibility. Oh, and in the division and win total. So the division, I think they're probably going to be right there at Denver. I think a lot of people expect the Chargers to bounce back with Harbaugh there now. So the Raiders to win the division is going to be over 5-1. Maybe like 6-1 plus 650 would probably be their odds to win that division. I think they'll have shorter odds than the Broncos. I really do. And then the win total, the Raiders, I feel like is going to be higher than expected. I feel like that's going to be like 7, because there's going to be a lot of hype with that team. There's always hype with the Raiders, and everybody loves Vegas. So I think their win total is going to be 7. But if it's 7, I'm betting the under. I'm telling you that right now. That is way too high. And the Chiefs are still in that division. You would think the Chargers are going to be better. Sean Payton's a good coach, so I don't think the Broncos are going to be that awful. So if the win total's 7, I'm taking the under, just saying. So there you have it for the Raiders. Next up, speaking of the AFC West, we're staying in that division. The Los Angeles Chargers.